Hi, it's Congressman Jared Huffman, and today I'm responding to a letter from Laura in Sebastopol. And Laura wrote to me expressing her concerns about House Republicans' attempts, almost 42 of them at this point, to defund Obamacare, repeal the Affordable Care Act, and most recently to even threaten to shut down the government if they're unable to do that. I'm getting a lot of letters and messages on this issue, and so Laura, I want to respond directly to this because I know a lot of my constituents are thinking about it. By way of background, before I came to Congress, I was in the California State Assembly, and at the time we were going through a budget crisis that became infamous, really, for midnight sessions, all-night sessions, last-minute solutions. It wasn't pretty. But I will tell you, in my years in Sacramento, none of it holds a candle to the legislative chaos that we are experiencing right now in the House of Representatives. Because even in the depths of the dysfunction in Sacramento, at least our leaders were trying to find bipartisan compromises and solutions. And unfortunately, the leadership in the House of Representatives right now is simply refusing to negotiate with Democrats. Instead, they're doubling down on these irresponsible bills and this political theater, things that have no chance of becoming law. To give you an example from this week, the Republican majority in the House has proposed to deeply cut the SNAP nutrition program, also known as food stamps. This would be a cut of nearly $40 billion. It would kick 4 million Americans off the program at a time when many working families are struggling and need this assistance. And this is not going to become law. It is passionately opposed by Democrats in the House, and the Democratic majority in the Senate is not going to let it happen, and the President has said he's not going to let it happen. And yet, we saw that bill advanced by the House this past week in Congress. They're also, the House majority is also trying attempt number 42 to repeal the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. And it is true, as your letter suggests, they're threatening to shut down the government this time if they don't get their way. Now, it's important to know that a government shutdown would be really bad news for millions of Americans. It would be hard on families and businesses around the country. It would be really bad news for our economy that's just starting to recover and get moving. The Republican majority is also proposing as part of that a continuing funding resolution that would lock in as permanent the devastating sequester cut level. Again, something that deeply hurts our economy at a time when we just can't afford that. So meanwhile, I and my Democratic colleagues are waiting on the outside. We're eager to be part of problem solving, eager to be part of governing this country if the GOP majority would simply show some interest in doing those things. I am continuing to try to reach out to responsible House Republicans. I believe many of them don't want to shut down the government. I know that they don't want the United States to default on our debt for the first time in history. And I'm trying to remind them that there's another way. That's the bipartisan way that Congress has always solved big problems. My hope is that they will realize that this extreme Tea Party wing of the Republican caucus controls less than 1/2 of 1/3 of our government. They don't have to get their way on these things. And there's another more responsible alternative, and that's for folks to come together, Republicans and Democrats, and solve these problems. While I push for that to happen, though, I'm also doing some specific things. And so just a few days ago, I voted for a Democratic proposal that would have replaced the sequester cuts and fully funded the government. It would have achieved deficit reduction at the agreed-upon level in the Budget Control Act. And it would have done all this in a way that avoids a government shutdown and more manufactured political crises that threaten our economic recovery. Unfortunately, it failed on party lines, but we will keep pushing, and I will keep working in every way I can with reasonable people in Congress to try to come up with solutions, avoid a government shutdown, and get our fiscal house in order in a balanced and appropriate way. Thanks for your question, and I hope that gives you an idea where I stand on these issues.